Imagine filling a space with trillions of grains of sand, billions of grains of rice, hundreds of thousands of grapes, a few thousand apples, and a dozen watermelons. Now, picture this as the inside of your cells. In terms of numbers, the majority of your cells are composed of water molecules, which act as the grains of sand. Water gives the cell's interior a soft jelly-like consistency and allows for easy movement. The other components, such as rice and fruit, represent proteins. Your cells are essentially protein robots, just like all forms of life. Interestingly, even the solid, non-fat parts of your body, including your bones, are predominantly made up of protein. Proteins are vital for enabling life processes. But how does this intricate system work? Let's delve into the language of life. Cells perform numerous complex tasks to sustain life, such as acquiring nutrients, eliminating waste, growing, building structures, responding to stimuli, and reproducing. They achieve all of this by communicating through the language of life, where the words are proteins. Here's a simplified explanation of how this language functions. It all starts with amino acids, which are tiny organic molecules and serve as the alphabet of the language of life. There are 21 different amino acids, akin to letters in an alphabet. When approximately 50 amino acids combine, they form a protein, which can be considered a word in this language. Multiple protein words come together to create a sentence called a biological pathway. To illustrate, let's say your cell needs to break down sugar using the language of life. It would use the amino acids corresponding to the letters B, R, E, A, and K to form the protein word, break. This word would then combine with other protein words to construct a biological pathway that signifies, break down sugar. In reality, this language of life is incredibly intricate, far surpassing our imagination. While mastering a human language requires knowledge of around 8,000 words, the language of life encompasses an estimated 20,000 words. Moreover, unlike the average English word with 5 letters, human proteins consist of an average of 375 amino acids, with the longest protein having over 30,000. Cells need to execute thousands of steps at any given moment. If they cease communicating through the language of life, they perish. Now, how do these seemingly mindless cells communicate using such a complex language? Let's explore further. There are 21 amino acids that can combine to form proteins. Proteins themselves consist of dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of amino acids. For instance, the average protein length in a human cell is 375 amino acids, resulting in an astounding 6.8 x 10 to the power of 495 possible proteins that your cells can create. This figure is greater than a quadrillion Google times the number of atoms in the universe. However, the majority of these possible proteins are ineffective. Just like in human language, most random combinations of letters yield gibberish. To speak the language of life accurately, one must know which proteins, or words, compose the language. This is the role of DNA, which contains a lengthy sequence of instructions. If you were to unravel a cell's DNA, it would span about 2 meters. If all the DNA in your body were combined into a single strand, it would reach the sun and back over 20 times. Around 1% of your DNA consists of genes, which act as protein dictionaries containing all the words of the language of life that your cells speak. Genes also serve as building manuals for the proteins necessary for cellular function. The remaining DNA is not useless but rather functions as a set of rules, comparable to the grammar of the language of life. It determines which proteins need to be built, when, and in what quantities. It also dictates which protein words should be combined and why. Let's move beyond metaphors and dive deeper into the fascinating reality of how life emerges from seemingly lifeless proteins. At its core, this process relies on a fundamental force of the universe: electromagnetism. Elementary particles, which form atoms and ultimately amino acids, possess different charges that attract or repel each other. The 21 amino acids have varying charges, some more negative, others more positive. During protein synthesis, cells link different amino acids together, creating chains or strings. Due to the differing charges, these strings begin to fold upon themselves, resulting in complex 3D structures. Although the exact mechanisms behind this folding process remain incompletely understood, it essentially transforms 1D strings into 3D puzzle pieces. In the world of proteins, shape is everything. The 3D shape of a protein determines its charged regions and, consequently, its interactions with other proteins. These proteins can either snap together or repel each other. When they join, their charges change, prompting shape alterations and the creation of new proteins. These new proteins serve as tools for various functions. Proteins can construct intricate structures like Lego pieces, dismantle substances, form complex micro-machines powered by energy, and astonishingly, convey information. For instance, if a toxic chemical enters a cell, there may be a protein specifically shaped to bind with it. Once the protein finds the toxin, it alters its shape, enabling it to bind to another protein, which triggers a series of interactions leading to the production of an antidote protein. This cascade of events represents a biological pathway, a sentence in the language of life. Without conscious thought, proteins resolve issues and save the cell's life. In reality, these pathways can involve dozens or even hundreds of steps. The complexity of life's operations is truly awe-inspiring. It is through remarkably intricate interactions among seemingly inanimate proteins that a cell's dumbness and lifelessness fade away. Life happens, but the true essence of life remains a mystery. To better comprehend the cooperation of seemingly dumb components to achieve remarkable intelligence, let's consider ants. Ants share a key characteristic with cells. Individual ants are rather unintelligent. However, when many ants come together, they communicate and accomplish extraordinary tasks. They build complex structures, organize themselves, care for their young, and defend against enemies. Collectively, they exhibit emergent behavior, a phenomenon wherein the whole possesses properties and abilities that its individual parts lack. This principle applies to everything in your body. Cells, which are composed of proteins, guided solely by chemistry, become integral components of a living being capable of sophisticated actions. Cells are akin to mindless robots, even less intelligent than ants. Yet, when countless cells collaborate, they form specialized tissues and organ systems, ranging from muscles that enable your heart to beat to brain cells that facilitate thinking.